Okay, so gaya pa na nakasanayan natin sa ating mga web lectures at web tutorials pagkatapos natin ng basics, papahirapan naman natin ang buhay nyo. Hindi pwedeng ako lang po yung napapagod dito. Ano po? Okay, so carbon dioxide, kailangan natin isulat ang kanyang or kailangan natin i-draw ang kanyang Lewis structure. Okay, so nandito po tayo, sinulat ko na yung Lewis, so ina-assume ko na expert skills electronic configuration at sa pagsulat ng Lewis symbols ng mga elements dito. So, nandito po ang Lewis symbol for carbon and for oxygen. So, carbon has 1, 2, 3, 4 unpaired electrons around it. Oxygen has 2 electron pairs or 2 lone pairs and then 2 unpaired electrons. So, paano ba natin ito gagawin? So, again, covalent bonding, kailangan yung mga unpaired electrons ay magko-combine or will be shared between two elements. So, simulan natin yung bonding framework. Isa lang tip, whenever compounds form, or whenever elements form a particular compound, nature likes symmetry. Gusto niya symmetric. So, carbon po, I had put it in the middle. And then yung dalawang oxygen atoms nandun sa gilid. And one very important thing po, if you want to be very systematic about this, the central atom should always be the atom with the lower electronegativity. So electronegativity, I have mentioned that earlier when I discussed ionic bonding. So electronegativity is the ability of the element to draw electrons towards it or to attract electrons. So yun po yun when they form covalent bonds. Mas mataas po ang electronegativity ng oxygen kumpara sa carbon. So therefore, it makes sense na ilagay ang carbon sa gitna. Okay, so i-combine natin to. Itong dalawang electrons sa to form a bond between carbon and oxygen, and also same for the other side. Kasi sabi nga po natin, gusto ng nature ang symmetry. So what structure do you get out of this? So, kung susundin po natin, i-represent na natin in terms of single bond yung electron pair na yan na na-share. And then, may natirang dalawang unpaired electrons around carbon. And then, isusulat ulit natin yung lone pairs around oxygen. There is one more unpaired electron around oxygen. One more here. And then, the two lone pairs. Okay. So, magbilang tayo. Ilan na bang electrons around each atom? So, ilalagyan ko ito ng division kasi baka malito kayo. Okay. Ilan ang carbons around oxygen? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then dalawang electrons. Oxygen has 7 electrons around it. So stable na ba yan? Hindi pa. Kasi kailangan 8. Demanding itong mga elements na ito eh. So carbon has 2 unpaired electrons and then 2 bonding pairs. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 electrons. On the other hand, yung oxygen dito is very similar to that one. It also has 7 electrons around it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 2 electrons shared between carbon and oxygen. So, that makes it 7. Ang pwede pa natin gawin is itong dalawang unpaired electrons na yan ay pagko-combine to form a double bond. Okay, so paano ba yan? So, isulat ulit natin yung structure. Carbon. So, meron na ngayong double bond between carbon and oxygen. And then what happens is you should not forget that oxygen has 2 lone pairs. Okay, so in this process, magbilang po tayo ng electrons. Okay, so magbilang po tayo. Ilan ang electrons around carbon? So carbon has how many bonding pairs around it? It actually has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bonding pairs. Ilan electron per bonding pair? So that's 4 times 2 electrons equals 8. So therefore, it has a complete octet. So stable na siya. No? It's isoelectronic with neon. So when it comes to oxygen, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons. And then the 2 bonding pairs here, comprising another 4 electrons. Therefore, meron kang 8 electrons around oxygen. 8 electrons din dito. So, ang Lewis structure po, it should look like this. So, carbon has 2 carbon-oxygen double bonds to satisfy its requirement for an octet of electrons. And then oxygen is also doubly bonded to the carbon center, and each oxygen has 2 lone pairs. Okay. So, ganoon lang po siya. So, we can do it stepwise. Isa-isa-puhin po natin pag-combine yung unpaired electrons. And then, sa nakita po natin, it will reach a configuration na medyo kulang pa po sila lahat sa octet. So, we have to keep combining the electron pairs in order for us to achieve a structure that satisfies the octet requirement for each element comprising the compound. So, yun po. At isa pa pong tip na gusto ko lang sabihin sa inyo. So, kung titingnan nyo po yung Lewis symbol for oxygen and carbon. So, carbon has 4 unpaired electrons around it. And so, what this means is that when carbon forms covalent compounds, it can only accommodate a total of 4 bonds around it. Kasi meron kang 4 unpaired electron. So, 4 bonds, maximum 4 bonds for carbon. In the case of oxygen, meron siyang 2 unpaired electrons. So, oxygen, when they form covalent compounds, they can only form 2 covalent bonds. Okay, 2 single bonds or 1 double bond. So, nakita niyo po dito, meron siyang double bond. Consistent po ano po. So, simple lang siya. So, kapag expert na kayo sa pagsusulat ng Lewis symbols for each element, madali nyo nang ma-anticipate. Paano ba yung structure nito? You have to consider electronegativity. Again, dapat nasa gitna yung pinakamababa ang electronegativity na element. And then after that, nature loves symmetry. So, kailangan i-arrange niyo yung mga atoms in such a way that you can come up with the most symmetric structure possible. In this case, nasa gitna ang carbon ng 2 oxygen. Alright, so on to the next example.